Welcome to the AZ Political Podcast. I'm your host, Jim Sharpe, and headline number one this week, President Donald Trump resurrected a hallmark policy of his first term, announcing that citizens from 12 different countries would be banned from visiting the U.S. and citizens from 7 other countries would face restrictions. This is something that the president signaled could happen when he took office in January, but it appears to have pulled the trigger after the Supreme Court sided with him and after the Court of Public Opinion decided that we would like to have fewer foreign nationals using homemade flamethrowers on Americans. Headline number 2, U.S. Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona admitted to me and my Arizona Morning News partner, LaDonna Harvey, that he agreed with Elon Musk that the big, beautiful bill is an abomination. Kelly suggested that his agreement with Musk, who, by the way, has called Kelly a traitor after he visited Ukraine, could be the result of a blind squirrel finding a nut every so often. And headline number 3, new polling from Noble Predictive Insights reveals over the last few days that Democratic Governor Katie Hobbs has a lead versus either of her possible Republican opponents in 2026's race to be governor, and how Arizona voters feel about major issues like immigration and tariffs. And hot off the presses, what Arizona's political climate looks like heading into the midterm election for federal offices and an election year where Arizona's top 5 state offices will be decided. And that brings me to my guest this week on the AZ Political Podcast, Mike Noble of the polling firm Noble Predictive Insights, a guy I respect enough that he was the very first guest ever when we launched this podcast. And I believe you are now the first 4-time guest.
Wow.
On the AZ Political Podcast.
I'm just setting records each time. You keep telling me this stuff. I'll keep coming back.
It's a huge honor. I know it is a huge honor for you.
It's a privilege.
So this latest poll data that you released shows that Arizona is divided except on a really important issue, and that is which direction Arizona is headed. You found out that basically the same percentage of Republicans, Democrats, and independents believe Arizona is headed in either the right or the wrong direction. And that was down the middle, right?
Yeah, it was interesting where Democrats and Republicans both were slightly more optimistic than pessimistic, thinking the state's going the right direction. But independents were slightly pessimistic on it, which is interesting because normally the Republicans and Democrats, whatever party's in power, the other side would be like, yeah, I don't like the way things are going. And so to see both of them thinking the right direction, that was surprising, but it's basically split 50-50 right now. And we were on an upward trajectory, so we were pretty negative ever since. We were positive once before COVID. COVID hit. People were pretty pessimistic about the direction of the state, and it's been slowly inching up since in the last 6 months, but it kind of stalled out. I thought it would be in the positive territory by now, but yeah, it's very divided right now.
What do you chalk that up to?
Well, I think it's the political division right now. Also, Arizona, we are a golden battleground state at this point. When you look at it, because when the Democratic offices, the Democrats have the 2 U.S. Senate seats. They also have the governorship, the top position on the state level. But Republicans have the legislature. You know, we are a true,
and the majority of the members of the House too.
Majority of members of the House, and they have a bunch of the statewide offices. You know, whether the Corporation Commission to several others. That's outside 2 of the Attorney General and Superintendent of Public Instruction. I mean, we're just incredibly competitive, and both have their strengths and weaknesses right now.
Yeah, I guess what I would love to do is talk to each and every one of those people that you polled and go, why do you think it's either headed in the right direction or headed in the wrong direction? And I guess you're going to get a myriad of different answers.
Well, yeah, you're going to have the partisan line right now. I mean, it's interesting when we look at some of these open-endeds of the why behind it. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of the things you're seeing about, like, oh, I don't like XYZ person or this policy. So it's a gamut across the board. But what it tells us right now is that there's a lot of division, not only we see nationally, but we're seeing it here in battleground Arizona.
You also said there was some good news for Democrats in this latest data that you released.
Yeah, I mean, after the last election, there was not really any good news for Democrats. However, in Arizona, I think they have some bright spots because a couple things. One is Trump's favorability right now is dead even. People either like the guy or don't like the guy. He's literally split. However, when it comes to like Katie Hobbs, Ruben Gallego, Senator Mark Kelly, they're all in very positive favorability with the electorate here in Arizona. So they're all seen and viewed pretty good. And also, it's going to hinge as we have midterms coming up that, you know, Trump is very much tethered to the economy. When COVID was going on, the lockdowns happened, the economy had obviously took a hit. His approval number, his job approval went down, but on his economic job approval, it did not go down. So he wasn't tethered. The voters didn't tie the economic woes to
COVID to Trump.
However, now they're in lockstep with each other. And so right now, Trump is doing well in immigration. Yes. However, in the economic or the pocketbook, which is still a big issue, I think that Democrats not only have some really good, standard bearers to help out, but also, Trump, can he get the economy turned around by the midterms, which if he doesn't, I think voters are going to take him to task, especially since Republicans have all three levers of power in Washington, President, Senate, and Congress.
I want to get back to talking about the positives that people see in Governor Hobbs, because, she just really started getting back out there, realizing I got an election in 2 years, I better. And, now she's on, with Bruce and Gatos every other week, and she's making a lot of public appearances. But I wanted to get back to you mentioned immigration, and that was also part of this poll. That was the info that you released a couple of days earlier. But it shows there are differing opinions from the different parties or different party members on what to do with undocumented individuals who commit crime, and that includes different types of crime. Explain.
Yeah, so this question was crafted because it's not just me over there at the research company. We have a whole research
You don't just
staff.
Stay up late at night writing all the questions and making all the phone calls?
Yeah, no, I have a life, 3 kids. Anyways, busy. And so it was interesting that we wanted to get at this, and the team and David Byler, chief of research, came up with this thought of like, hey, how can we break this apart? Like, are there differences on the levels of crime on how people think? Like, so, hey, what about like major crimes such as like, murder, things like that, compared to white collar crimes such as like, I don't know, embezzling or money laundering, etc.
Or stealing identities, which sometimes undocumented folks have been known to do that.
Correct. You have that. And then the third level, which is minor crimes, like a traffic stop or jaywalking, something like that. And it was interesting that white collar and major collar crimes, everyone was very much on board, even Democrats and Republicans, like, yeah, if they commit that, they should be out of here. And what I thought was interesting is that white collar crimes wasn't that big of a difference for major crimes, because you think murder and money laundering, I don't know, you'd think there might be a little bit of separation there.
Money laundering can involve drugs, it can involve, and like I said, it can involve identity theft.
Well, correct. And so the electorate was very unforgiving for anyone wanting to do that's undocumented. But where they were very much split was when it came to minor offenses. So, so type of stuff that, like, let's say Joe Arpaio was doing back in the SB 1070 days, pulling someone over for a broken taillight. Hey, they're undocumented, out of there. That one was much more divisive, with 49% of the electorate saying yes and 49% saying no.
I'm surprised a little bit, and maybe it's because maybe not enough Republicans look at your poll, that people haven't pounced, at least Republicans haven't pounced on the fact that not even 3/4 of Democrats think that you should be removed from the United States if you've committed a major crime. What was it, 70? I think it was 72%?
Correct. It was a large number. And that's the part that I think the big reason why Democrats lost this last election, because it was clear that they were very out of touch with the voters in general, because yes, their base is saying that, but it's not even the full part of their base, but everybody else outside of that, independents, Republicans, not on board. And that's the thing, is that Trump, he's doing a really good job. Like, immigration is hands down his best issue, but the messaging. But now you see why that they're always bringing up the what is it, Lake and Riley, and those different names of those poor people that were terrible things were done to them by undocumented. Well, they're bringing up these stories like they're incredibly effective, but that's the thing, is Democrats, I think, is them, let's say, trying to defend like the MS-13 thing. Like, they're losing on that all day, every day in the minds of voters.
Yeah. Your headline, one of your stats said, Trump remains a double-edged sword for Arizona Republicans. Does that go back to what you mentioned already, and that's the economy?
Yeah, I mean, it's a double-edged sword, because Trump right now, for one, his job approval, he started off positive, which he was never positive his entire first term. So during his 4 years, he was always underwater. And the question was by how much. So he started off positive a little bit, but he's now lost a lot of that, honeymoon period that these presidents will enjoy in the first 6 months. And with Trump right now is that I think Republicans, everyone's glomming on. Look at the governor's race right now for the Republican primary. You're seeing, Ropes and Biggs, both the endorsement. I mean, everyone's trying to hug on to Trump as much as possible on the Republican side. The problem is that if the economy does not get better, and also too, the other big thing that people don't realize, we went through the biggest coalition shift we've seen in the last 6 decades. The last time was back in the civil rights movement back in the mid 60s. So we went through this big reshuffling of the key voter blocks between the Republican and Democratic team.
Right.
And basically what happened is that Republicans trade off some white college educated and some suburban voters for, more blue collar, lower educated voters, which is fine. There's more of that other group. The problem is in the midterms is that folks that are, a little higher educated or higher fluency, they're more likely to turn out. And it was always Republicans that had better turnout in midterms historically in Arizona.
Without that starstruck presidential race, a lot fewer people show up.
Correct. And you saw it in the Wisconsin Supreme Court races that happened just a few months ago. And that when you saw that, Republicans, they really put a lot of effort, a lot of time and resources into that. And they got shellacked by 10 points, which shouldn't have been that bad. But you saw in the analysis afterwards that turnout that the biggest challenge for Republicans up here, because they're tied to Trump, is can they activate those presidential year voters? Because we've seen in the Georgia elections for U.S. Senate, if Trump's, not on the ticket, Republicans don't do nearly as well. But if Trump's on the ticket, they see the big surge, which you saw Republicans benefited from this last election.
All right, back to the governor's race, because that was part of... No, it's good. No, this is all good.
Okay, all right.
You're enlightening me a lot, and I appreciate it. And it's not even just enlightening me on footwear with your red, white, and blue sneakers again.
But born on the 4th of July.
I know this about you. I know a lot more about you, Mike Noble, than you know.
Oh, that's scary.
Your governor's poll showed that Katie Hobbs has a lead over both Andy Biggs and Karen Taylor Robeson, but it wasn't a big lead. In fact, it was within your poll's margin of error. So really, we have a dead heat going into 2026. Now, did you do this thing I've seen you do in the past where you take a generic Republican and put them up against Hobbs? I
did not do that yet, but that's a great idea, and I'm storing my memory bank that I think I should ask that next one, because to your point, I'd assume the Arkansans were so far out, but I think by asking that in the next one, that'd be interesting. But we didn't test it against a generic. So we have Robeson and Biggs, but it's interesting, both of them, they're still not as, very well known, like Carrie Lake, for example. 9 in 10 Arizonans knew who Carrie Lake was.
Right.
It's Biggs and Robeson are definitely about 60%, 70% know who they are. So they got a little growing to do. But I thought what was interesting about the poll is that with Hobbs is that with her close, as an incumbent, she hasn't built a fortress around her for re-election by any stretch. Also, she's not in a terrible position either. But that's why also it's going to be one of the most competitive gubernatorial elections in the country.
How much money do you think is going to be spent on this when it's all said and done? Just the governor's race?
I think a record number.
Yeah? You don't want to put you want to put an actual figure on it? That's okay if you don't.
I think
you can just tell me, hey, buzz off, Sharpe,
Yeah, no. I mean, exact number? I mean, do you count campaigns plus outside groups?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. I could see easily 30 to 50 million.
Wow.
Oh, it's just insane because the governor's races, you're going to have
for little tiny Arizona?
Well, yeah, I know, little tiny Arizona. I mean, but you have you're going to have a very competitive Republican primary, and it's a year out. I mean, I think the field, we had some people jump out of the race. You have Robeson and Biggs in there. Everyone keeps talking about them. But I think there's some big names out there that potentially might get in, like, Congressman Schweikert.
Really?
You have some potential other self-funders that could jump in the race.
Whoa. Slow down there, buddy. You just threw out David Schweikert's name as a possible gubernatorial candidate. I know you know him. Have you heard this from the horse's mouth, or have you just heard it from people who know him also?
There's a suspicion about it, and also I think there's an interest there.
Okay.
But again, at the end of the day, I can't read minds or know what someone's going to decide. But the thing is that we have some big names. Because remember, we're a year out from the primary, actually.
Yeah.
A year
more than a year.
More than a year. And then we have a few more, 3 months after that. So we have a long time on this race. But I think we're going to see a record amount spent, not only in the competitive Republican primary, and I think it's going to get wilder before. And this other thing, this governor's race is going to unequivocally be a knife fight.
Oh yeah, down to the wire and hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah, if you're into politics, these are so much more interesting than Senate races and things like that. I mean, especially the Republican primary. I think is going to be very aggressive.
Our last Senate race was pretty interesting.
Yeah, but I think you're going to see almost on both sides. It's going to be a knockdown, drag-out fight. And again, Hobbs, she has a big war chest that she's already built up.
How much she's got right now?
$3 million or so.
$3 million already. Yeah.
Already. I mean,
and then Robeson's already run ads.
Oh, yeah, she's already up on air. And that was one thing in the poll that a lot of people didn't notice, which I thought was the most interesting part, is that we asked in the Republican primary, Republicans, after they selected who their vote choice was, is that, okay, well, why are you supporting, whether it's Andy Biggs or Robeson or whoever's in there, why is that? And we gave them an option of 15 different items. The number one thing for both of them was actually being a loyal supporter of Trump, which was interesting. Mm-hmm. What was interesting, we asked that question last time. Robeson was, I don't know, down in the mid-20s or something. She wasn't very high in that number. But when asking just recently, she was 10 points higher than Andy Biggs. But remember, she's running these ads right now.
That says that she's been endorsed by Donald Trump.
Yeah, it says, hey, Karen, are you here? If you run for, governor, you got my endorsement. And so I see that as that she, you're seeing that benefit there because and she also has a cash advantage. She has about 900,000 compared to Biggs has maybe 260,000, which admittedly is not a very strong fundraising number for one's first quarter. So I think what's the biggest thing in the dynamic in the race, if Robeson can have a free reign of kind of running her ads without Biggs and not getting up till 9 months from now or a year, and then he's like, oh, I'm endorsed by Trump. And they're like, well, I've heard this for 9 months or a year that she is. I don't know. I think it's going to be a really interesting contest.
And that, of course, leaves open, that congressional district in the East Valley that Andy Biggs is obviously going to be exiting. Do you think a Cardinals kicker ends up in that job?
Honestly, if
Jay Feeler.
No, I know of Jay, frankly, I mean, I think he's in the best position of all the folks there. He's got name recognition. Plus, when you look at his background, after he got done with NFL kicking, he got incredibly involved in nonprofits. And that's the thing is that he's been out there just giving back the entire time. And now he's looking to serve. I mean, I think he's got a very fascinating story. But also, again, I think he's in the best position because the other big thing is he has name ID and recognition compared to a lot of these other folks running, because you either got to buy it or you got to earn it. He kind of starts off the race with a head start compared to everybody else. So I think, frankly, he's going to be the one to beat in that district because Republicans have a pretty big advantage in that district, so Democrats likely won't be competitive.
Right, and so he has a lot of name recognition among Republicans. I think if you were to ask the average person on the street, which sports star from Arizona would you like to see running for office? I think you'd have to have Larry Fitzgerald at the top, maybe yes. Kurt Warner second.
Yeah. Larry is the best. Actually, if Larry wanted to run for office, my gosh, he would be a juggernaut, frankly, in the state.
I'm kind of surprised he hasn't done something. Being such good friends with John McCain and all that back
correct.
in the day.
Yeah, and he's big on giving back, etc. I mean, we even polled him when we did our top 50, our political power rankings, where we kind of preseason rank all the folks in there. Larry took number one spot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, and then he was asked later, and he's like, I'm not running, at least for now. So, anyways, so if he does run, Larry, if you're watching this, I mean, if you want to be governor or senator or something, I think you got pretty good odds here in the state.
Call Mike. He'll go back to partisan politics.
No, yeah. I love the nonpartisan world. I am quite happy being Switzerland.
Yeah, no, and you're doing a good job at it, by the way. I always enjoy your polls, and I can't tell which way you're leaning.
And well, that's the goal. So I'm glad we're doing our job, because at the end of the day, I kind of, from my viewpoint, is that I view ourselves as the ESPN of politics. Like, you could be a big Cardinals fan, but let's say you got a big Broncos fan. Yes, you guys are very visceral and you're playing each other, but you're not mad at ESPN. I mean, they're saying, hey, this is where you're doing good, bad. And I was getting a lot of flack for this last poll. saying I'm, politicking or whatever. I'm like, no, you're out. We're calling it a seat. We have no vested interest. And at the end of the day, the goal is, to give folks with all this partisanship that's going on, hey, what is actually going on? What's the reality? And just kind of calling the game as we're seeing it, the balls and strikes. So I don't know.
You're not calling yourself ESPN so that you can get on Arizona Sports 98.7, are you?
I mean, they should have a political section because I argue all the time that politics is basically sports for nerds.
Blood sport.
Yeah, correct.
Nerds, yeah.
It's like aggressive chess. Yeah.
Yes. Wow. And the way he goes through it, it's like 3D Spock chess. So thank you very much, Mike. Always a pleasure.
Well, Jim, thanks for having me on and being a 4-time guest. And I'm wondering, when is it? Do I have my 10th appearance? Do I get like a plaque, award, maybe a signed picture of you or something?
I'll buy you an In-N-Out burger.
That sounds fantastic. Okay. Only if it's animal style.
Okay, you got it. That is Mike Noble of Noble Predictive Insights. I'm Jim Sharpe. Thanks for watching the AZ Political Podcast. I'll see you soon.
Thanks for watching the AZ Political Podcast with Jim Sharpe. Click the box to watch more from KTAR News and tap the button in the middle to subscribe.